Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. You did the right thing, OP. I don't think there's a karma bus big enough to run over those two the way they deserve. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Kicked my pregnant cousin out of my house. My 27-year-old female granddad died when I was 3 and left an enormous sum of money to me as I was the only grandchild he got to know before his passing. My mother and her sister received a good amount of money as well, but my aunt never cared to save some of it for her future children or just future in general. While I was in age, I decided to take care of my 2 brothers' education, and I offered to do the same for my aunt's child too, my cousin and her brother. But my cousin, Moira, 22-year-old female, didn't want to go and demanded I give her $1 million because that's what I owed her. I said that wasn't the deal and I didn't give her the money. Moira got pregnant with her first child at 20. The father didn't want a baby and he just left. After that, I gave her $30K since I always felt it was unfair that her brother got something from our granddad and she didn't. So after this, we kind of mend our relationship because she was really grateful. I think that was the first time we had a conversation without yelling or she cussing me out. I step in and tried to help her as much as I could with her baby, and now he calls me auntie and loves to spend time with me. My aunt never approved this because she always believed I stole from her children by not giving them half of my money, and she tried to fill Moira's head with bad things about me. When I got married at 25, I asked Moira to be my maid of honor, and my aunt tried to convince her that I wanted to humiliate since her boyfriends left when my nephew was born. I assured her that it wasn't like that, but my aunt ended up winning, and my mother and I decided to cut ties with them after they almost effed up my wedding. They called the venue and tried to cancel the wedding. Now with the pandemic and the lack of work, Moira called me asking for help since she lost her job and can't take proper care of my nephew. She said that she was really sorry for what happened during my wedding and that she understood if I didn't want to help her, and that it wasn't for her but for the baby. I haven't seen him since I cut her off and I really missed him, so I agreed. I invited her to move in with me, my husband, and my 5-month-old while she tried to get a job and get on her feet again. After this, we started to rebuild our relationship. She always helped around the house and sometimes babysat my daughter so I could take a long bath or things like that. She and my husband got really close during all this. My aunt also started to be more civil towards me. I really thought that everything was starting to improve and that we were finally going to be a proper family. As I said before, they always treated me like a thief. A week ago, she said she had an announcement to make, made a delicious dinner, beautifully arranged the kitchen, and invited all of us, my parents, my cousins, and our brothers, just to say she was pregnant with my husband. I felt so betrayed and humiliated. My husband tried to defend himself, but I ended up kicking them both out, and while my family supports me, as in my parents and brothers, my aunt said that I have no right to kick them out since now she is my ex's girl and they have to live here. I told her that my husband doesn't own crap and that without me, he doesn't have any money, that the house and all of our things are truly mine, and the only thing he's going to have is child support debt. And our second story. The pool and the game. I once worked front desk at a public pool. It was horrible, but one interaction stands out, both for how malicious my compliance was and for the fallout. Our swim team had just launched and parents came to sign their kids up for every single thing they could because it meant after-school activities and freedom. Yay! My responsibility was the form. First, I had to help design the form because the design the city gave us, made by a woman who was making more than minimum wage as a pool desk caddy, was not enough for my boss, and my dumb butt let her know I could make MS Word sit up and do tricks for e-cookies. Once the form was approved, and by then I was taking proofs home to burn as catharsis, my job was to make sure that every single parent had signed the form and paid their fee. Enter Daddy T. His daughter was on swim team, and he had this charismatic grin and confident way of speaking that immediately put my alarm bells into danger, Will Robinson. He was a little too smiley, a little too happy, and vaguely familiar. There was something kind of off about him. I wasn't sure what it was, but it made me want to be as far under his radar as possible. Unfortunately, while his kid was signed up for swim team, he still needed to sign the form and pay for her entry, which meant I needed to interact with him. Most females, and not too few males, know that gazelle on the velt feeling. Something's off, something had the hair on the back of your neck standing on end. You don't know what it is, and the rules of social interaction demand you keep your mouth shut and play nice. The guy spends a few minutes of charismatic smiles. I had never seen teeth like that outside of Channel 10 news presenters, acting like he's having trouble reading the form. I designed the form over the course of multiple painful weeks, and know you would have to be severely brain damaged to have issues understanding it. My boss had me dumb it down to the point that a kindergarten student could know where to scribble a name approximation. And this guy's well-spoken and clean-cut, and he's got the sharpest and most familiar gaze I've ever seen. I cannot think of any reason for him to be this obtuse, honestly, and I begin to suspect he's hitting on me, which for multiple reasons has me creeped out by several orders of magnitude. I just want this guy to go away. Finally, after agonizing minutes of him struggling with the form that a 2-year-old could sign, he hands it back and says, still with that same confident, charismatic smile, "Read it to me." I was at a low point in life. I hated every single thing about my life. I had untreated PTSD, and the thought of anyone hitting on me made me want to go scrub a layer of skin off. The realization that this guy had me pinned to a desk I could not leave until he signed the form made me want to punch him. But I needed this job, and my boss would grind me into flour and turn me into concession stand specials if I even pretended to stand up for myself. So instead, I complied. I shifted into happy customer service mode and read him that GD form. I summarized legalese. I dumbed down things from kindergarten to preschool. I did it all with the sweetest smile I could muster and tried to be about as asexual as the desktop computer right next to the counter window. I made it a point to be the most cheerfully helpful person and hoped that somehow this would translate to go the F away. And it worked. He signed. He left. I breathed a sigh of relief. Until next week, when the form had to be supplemented by the sign-in sheet and the whole effing song and dance repeated itself. He asked me to read him the GD sign-in sheet, and I did with a smile that couldn't have been more forced if he had a gun to my head. At this point, I was heaping lit coals on his head and practicing my obtuse as F face. I might be a captive audience, but I would be damned if I let him know he got to me. I maliciously treated him like any other customer. I hated to see him arrive, and when he left, I cheered. And this went on for weeks because every session the boss would need a new form signed, and every session that guy asked me to read it to him, and I managed it by channeling my inner robot. I even began highlighting his daughter's name. What kind of crap dad forgets his daughter's name? And our interactions became a game. Him trying to get to me refusing to be got. It almost felt like chess. Then it came time to distribute the swim team gear, and that brought a whole new set of forms, which meant that guy asked me to read him every single one of them. And just when I'm contemplating leaping out the nearest window while doing a full-body soakwood decontam, he suddenly meets my eyes, and this layer of pretense I hadn't ever noticed drops away. He has tears, literal tears in his eyes, and he says, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much." See, the entire time I'd been maliciously complying with him by being the best reader ever, I'd been struck by how familiar he looked. But I didn't ever really watch the news. I just sat and read books while my parents watched it instead, which is why I didn't recognize our local weatherman when he began bringing his daughter to swim practice. It's also why I didn't know why he had recently retired. He'd been diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor, you see, and they'd just finished a round of surgery and chemo to save his life that they weren't sure would actually work. His odds sucked. It really had been all over the news. They even gave him a really nice heartbreaking sound-off that I never watched because of my own depression and isolation. I found it on YouTube later. It's the kind of thing all of us would pray someone do in our memory. He thanked me because ever since his surgery, his ability to function has been compromised. He could mask most of the damage with his charisma and training and usually could fake it till you make it with the best of them, but he'd lost a lot of his capacity to read. It was a struggle he'd obviously never faced before, and it frustrated him that after all his college education and decades of being the face of the local weather, He suddenly couldn't even read a basic form for his daughter's swim team. And he was so thankful he was crying that I was taking so much time out of my day to help him. And not just to help him, but to be so unpatronizing. I treated him like he was normal. He said that I made him feel sort of whole again. He made every effort to make it clear he was genuinely, sincerely grateful for how helpful I'd been. And I'm suddenly reviewing every insult I thought about him, every time I questioned his mental capacity or quality as a parent. He was so low that what I meant as a mockery and a punishment was to him a gift. I made him feel normal. There aren't words for that kind of shame. People still talk about how he touched lives. I know he touched mine. And our last story. My house is not part of the HOA. I recently bought a non-HOA house in a predominantly HOA neighborhood. I was told by my agent that the original owners opted out of the HOA in the beginning. I had an encounter with an HOA board neighbor who has come off as somewhat of a B-word, discriminating against my pit bull and trying to exercise authority over us. I told her we're not part of the HOA. The back of her house, yard, faces the back of mine. My dog has not done anything to them to cause this type of confrontation from her, but I get her concerned. She's worried that my dog might attack and kill her small dog. I have a fully fenced yard about 4 to 5 feet high and chicken wire all around. My dog's almost 9, has hip problems, and cannot jump high. She's a bit aggressive towards small dogs, but there's no concern that she could get to the neighbor's yard. Soon I start getting absolutely stupid fines like I took out the trash before midnight, wrong doorbell frames, etc. I didn't sign anything during closing related to HOA. It took me contacting the county to have them verify the title and certificate of ownership information. What's stupid is that this was what she basically started the conversation off with, not a welcome or anything. Just her letting me know that she's on the HOA board and she doesn't like pit bulls. Eventually, I had to threaten her with a lawyer and she got off my back. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.